All right, so welcome to week 2 of Introduction to Public Speaking. With this brief overview, I would like to give you some tips on how you can hook your audience with an engaging opening statement or some kind of strategy, because there are many, and how you can conclude your speech with something that is memorable long after the speech has finished. So let's get started with looking at the objectives. In this overview here, I will go over the objectives for week 2, the assignments, discussions, things like that, and then I will give a brief introduction to attention getters. So really quickly for week 2, the logistics are you have 2 chapters to read. Chapter 9, Introduction and Conclusions, and Chapter 12, Delivering Your Speech. There is 1 discussion, the impact of technology. There are 2 videos to watch, the sample informative speech, First World Problems, and Life After Death by PowerPoint. The homework that you could have started yesterday, even though yesterday was Memorial Day. There are 2 speech exercises that are due for tomorrow. They are very brief and they just give a background information for your speech, which will be due next Monday. The second homework for tomorrow, which you should start tomorrow, there are 4 quizzes on chapter 8, 9, 11, and 12, and these are due by 6/1. Even though these quizzes are through Canvas, you have the entire week to complete these 4 quizzes. And just so you are aware, next Monday we will have your informative speeches via Zoom from 2 to 4:55. So those are the logistics for week 2. So let's get into the attention getters. So there are several of them, and the first one to start is called the reference to a subject. So here's an example of how you can refer your audience to the subject to which you will be talking about. And I hope you can see this quote here, and it begins with, "We are surrounded by statistical information in today's world. So understanding statistics is becoming paramount to citizens in the 21st century." So this is a very simple and very direct way to begin your speech. And even though it is clear and direct, it might not be the most entertaining or interesting, because you want to hook your audience so that they are engaged enough to listen to more of your speech. The next is the reference to the audience, and here's an example. As human resource professionals, you and I know the importance of talent management. In today's competitive world, we need to invest in getting in and keeping the best talent of our organization to succeed. So if I were to use this as a speaker, I would be attempting to make a connection to my audience. So the key words there would be, as human resource professionals, you and I know. So it's establishing common ground between the speaker and the audience. This is one of my favorite ones, and this you could use a quotation to begin your speech. So I found a few here, or this is one actually. And this pertains to the topic of giving a speech. It's fitting for this class. So speak when you are angry, and you will make the best speech you'll ever regret. And this was said by Lawrence Peter, who is an educator and writer. So quotes are a great way to begin a speech. And I think mostly it's because audience members will remember the quote you have said, and there should always be a connection from the quote to the topic to which you are discussing. And a little bit more about quotations. You can easily find quotes from movies, from speeches, and political speeches. You can go to Bartley's. There are Brainy quotes. There are so many websites where you can find quotes to use for any kind of speech. So moving on, reference to current events. So here's an example. On January 10th, 2007, Scott Anthony Gomez Jr. and a fellow inmate escaped from Pueblo, Colorado jail. During their escape, the duo attempted to rappel from the roof of the jail using a makeshift ladder of bedsheets. During Gomez's attempt to scale the building, he slipped, fell 40 feet, and injured his back. After being quickly apprehended, Gomez filed a lawsuit against the jail for making it too easy for him to escape. So there's a lot that could be said for current events. And so you want to keep in mind that when you are doing this, you want to make the audience aware of how relevant the topic is. So you could be enlightening your audience to this, or you could actually be reminding them, which brings me to my next point, the historical reference. So here's an example. During the 1960s and 70s, the United States intervened in the civil strife between North and South Vietnam. The result was a long-running war of attrition in which many American lives were lost and the country of Vietnam suffered tremendous damage and destruction. Today, we see a similar war being waged in Iraq. American lives are being lost, and stability has not yet returned to the region. So I hope you note that when I am reading this, I'm trying to evoke how I would be doing this as if I were giving a speech, not that I'm just reading it from the screen. So the advantage of using historical reference is that the speaker is evoking the audience's memories of the Vietnam War in order to raise awareness of what is happening today. So the next one is an anecdote, which is a brief story. Key word there is brief. So here's an example. In July 2009, a high school girl named Alexa Longoria was walking along a main boulevard near her home on Staten Island, New York, typing a message on her cell phone. Not paying attention to the world around her, she took a step and fell right into an open manhole. Isn't it funny that her name is Alexa and now we use Alexa to ask her for the weather and things like that? So anecdotes can emphasize the speech's message. And so here you have the pitfalls, if you want, of technology. So there I put a pun. Okay, and there's a lot to be said for anecdotes and how they can make the connection to the message. And so this week or next week with your informative speeches of your names, maybe there's a story to how you learned about your name, or maybe you learned or you met somebody who has the same name, last name as you, and maybe how you reacted to that. So there's always a connection that you can bring to your speech with an opening story. So then here's another one, startling statements. So here are a few examples. The average person has 1,460 dreams a year. There are no clocks. It should say there are no clocks in Las Vegas casinos. In 2006, Pope John Paul II became an honorary globetrotter. So the thing about startling statements is that for the most part, they should not necessarily be common knowledge. Or if they are, maybe it's something so infinite, so very particular about a topic that people might, really? I did not know that. So, and again, I think this also bodes well as a quote would, because people will remember this fact. But keep in mind, though, that that startling facts can be fun, that obviously they have to be relevant to your speech. And then we have the ask a question. So there are two types of ask a questions, if you will. The first is a response question, which, for example, you could have, please raise your hand if, or have you ever. And with these kinds of questions, the audience is expected to answer. On the flip side, we have the rhetorical questions, which you could say, I have two questions I would like you to think about as I discuss such topic. and the audience is not expected to answer, but in their own mind, think of how they would react to that question. So what I have here is I will include in this posting, or for this video that I will put in the week 2 module, there are some great links that I will also include as a Word document as well for Chapter 9 and for Chapter 12. And where I grabbed these quotes is the link here, the lumenlearning.com. So if you wanted to read more about these attention getters, you are welcome to look at this link provided. And again, just as I mentioned here, I will be attaching a Word document for Chapter 12 resources. Okay, so that is my brief overview. I look forward to meeting everyone next week. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.